Okay, we are in the Mem Amid Aleph in Masech Sukkah. We are discussing the halachas of buying an esrog during Shemitah. What's interesting is, if you take a look at the Rif in the back, the Rif takes out all the Gemaras that are Nagei halacha. That's what the Rif did. And he put all Agadat is left out of the Rif. You want to know if a Gemara is a halacha Gemara or a Agadat Gemara, you look at the Rif. If it's in the Rif, it means it's halachic. And the Rush is based on the Rif. The Rush always quotes the Rif first, and then he continues his commentary. So if you look at the Rif or the Rush, nothing to say. They quote the Mishnah, and then they skip to the next Mishnah.
Really?
They don't talk about Shemitah because it wasn't Nageya. It wasn't Nageya. And no, the Russian the Russian wrote a halacha sefer. You know, it was made halacha lamaisa. So they lived in Germany where the Rush lived in Ashkenaz. So the Rif the Rif wasn't, but the Shemitah they hadn't done it for 1,000 years, or almost for 600 years, 700 years already. So yeah, they do. And they didn't write on Zerayim. The halachas of Zerayim. That's why the Shulchan Aruch is not on Zerayim. Something about a little bit. I shouldn't say that. No, there is in Yeridea. It goes through it, but the Rambam did. There's some Gemaras. So whatever. It's just very interesting. With some of the Shemitah halachas, it mentions the Mishnah when you buy the lulav, when you buy the esrog, you got to do it. And maybe elsewhere in Shas, it goes through some of these things. But it's just interesting that it didn't go through. Not that there's some again, there's a little Gemara how to do it or what to do it. Anyway, I thought that was interesting. Okay.
He wasn't looking ahead.
Yeah, Baruch Hashem. Now we're back. We're almost there. Okay. I say almost just because it's not there, until you have Revish V'Aleh, it's the Rabbanon. But we're almost there. Okay. Evan, nice to see you on. We're on the top of Mem Amid Aleph. Okay, so we're middle of, I left off yesterday in the middle of, so we're discussing here the where the Gemara said that the esrog is going to be a problem because it seems like if you're going to pick your esrog in the beginning of the 7th year after Rosh Hashanah, so you're going to have a problem with Shemitah. The problem is that L'charen esrog is basar lakita. It's a tree. Fruits generally go. Fruit generally goes basar chanata, but the esrog is going basar lakita. So Gemara said, "Brother Machlek is how you view a esrog." And the Gemara says one shita is that it's daima to an elan in 3 ways and daima to a yerek in 1 way. And then we had Rabbi Lezer said that an esrog is daima to an elan in all ways, and therefore it would even go basar chanata when it comes to Shemitah. So the Gemara wants to know, so who the Amar, so our Tana, who says that there is an issue, there is. Right. So both of these tonight, both Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi are both saying that an esrog is like a tree when it comes to Shemitah, which means that it goes basar chanata, not basar lakita. That means an esrog that grew in the 6th year is not going to have kedusha Shemitah, so there shouldn't be any problems with it. So why is our Tana concerned with the esrog coming out of the 6th year? So the Gemara says, Huda Amar Ki Hai Tana. Our Tana holds like the following. Tana went to the Brisa. Amar B'Yasi. Avtulmus Heyed Mishum Chamisha Zakenim. Avtulmus said over testimony in the name of 5 Zakenim. Esrog Achar Lakita LaMaiser. An esrog follows harvesting when it comes for Maiser. V'Rabbi Seinu Nimnu V'Usha. And the Chachamim, they counted the cover together, and when they were in Usha, that's where the Sanhedrin was, and they counted. But Amr, they said Bein LaMaiser, Bein LaShvis. Both for Meiser and for Shemitah. So in fact, the Gemara Shvis Mandaka Shmei. We only mentioned Meiser. Who mentioned anything about Shemitah? So Gemara says Chazir Mechzer V'Hachitani. Esrog Acher Lakita LaMeiser VeAcher Chanata LaShvius. So here we have Amanda Amr that says that it follows Chanata for Shvius. Rabbi Seinu Nimnu B'Usha V'Amru Esrog Basar Lakita Bein LaMeiser Bein LaShvius. So Rabbi Seinu B'Usha. So that means the Sanhedrin, they came together and they counted that you're going to go follow Chanata. You're going to follow Chanata both for, you're going to follow Lakita for both Meiser and Shvius. So this would be the Tana of our Mishnah would hold like Rabbeinu Seinu, Shebu'usha, that paskin that you go basar Lakita for Shemitah. That means if you harvest if you harvest an esrog after Rosh Hashanah, this coming year, it'll have the dinim of Shemitah. Okay, now the Gemara said that the issue is only with the esrog and not with the lulav. So Gemara is going to discuss this, the lulav now. Time of the lulav bar shishis and nechlas l'shvius. The reason why the lulav was okay was because it was grown in the 6th year. But a lulav grown during Shemitah year is going to be a problem. Kaddish. It's going to have kedusha shvius. And again, a lulav, whatever a lulav grown during year 7 is going to have kedusha shvius. So if that's the case, says in fact the Gemara, why should it have kedusha? Why should a lulav have kedusha shvius at all? Amai eitzim ba'almu. It's just wood. The eitzim ein behem mishum kedusha shvius. Eitzim wood does not have kedusha shvius, and we'll see why in a minute. The Tanya, we learned in a brace. Ale kanim, the ale gefanim, branches, reeds, or of a vine. Shagavan l'chayva al penei asada, that you collected them across. You collected to store them, and you're storing them. So it depends why you collected them. Lakdan la'achila, if you collected them to eat, to feed to your animals, yesh ben mishum kedusha shvius, then they will have a halachas of shvius. Lakdan la'eitzim, but if you collected them as firewood, then ein behem mishum kedusha shmita. Then they will not have the halachas of shmita. So the Gemara is assuming that the lulav is like something you collect. You're not collecting it to feed to your animals, so you collect it to do what? You keep lulavim to use as brooms. So the Gemara assumes that it shouldn't have kedusha shvius. You see that if you're locked in la'eitzim, eitzim don't have kedusha shvius. So my answer, Shani Asa, that's different. The Amarkra, the pasuk says lachem la'achla, lachem dumya de la'achla. The halacha is that it needs to be for you. The fruits of Shemitah are for you to eat, to benefit from. Dumya lachem dumya de la'achla, which means what? That means any benefit you have has to be similar to eating. What is that? That means misha hana asay ubi uray shava. Your hana from the item and the consumption of the item comes at the same times. Biura means it's when you're using it. It's gone. Beer means like beer chametz. You burn the chametz, so you're consuming the item, and the benefit you get from the item happens at the time that you consume it.
Like a fruit.
Okay? Like a fruit. When you eat something, so you eat it, and you are mivar, and as you eat it, you're getting rid of it. You're being mivar. So the hana has to come at the same time as the biur, as opposed to yatsu eitzim, as opposed to firewood. Shahana asam achar biura. The benefit comes after you consume it. Why is that? Because here we're talking about, let's say you're burning wood to cook. So what do you use to cook? You don't use a flame to cook. You use a coal to cook. So first the thing burns, and then it returns into a coal, and now it gives off heat, and then you cook with it. So it's already mavur, it's already burnt, and now you're using the heat to cook with. That's called, the hana you get from it is not b'shaz beer, it's achar b'yuray.
And maybe the coal is not the hana?
No, the hana is the cook.
Yeah, but it's also you're making something that you're gonna use this.
Correct, but the hana that you get from it is the heat that it gives off when it's a coal.
What about the heat if you're warming yourself in the house?
I don't know. Rashi just talks about cooking, but I hear if you're using it for
fuel to heat the house.
Yeah. Then l'chayra, the hana of the heating comes at the same time. And after, yeah, I don't know. I think we'll ask a different question about wood, so maybe but I'm not sure if that'll help. Well, that's a good point. Let's keep it in mind.
Be annoyed to a person that you're making the charcoal.
No, but that's not the hana. The hana you get from it is the hana that you have
when you're cooking.
That's when you benefit from the coal.
You benefit cooking your food.
That's cooking your food.
You don't really benefit to eat the food in a way. I mean, you benefit that it's cooking it because you're going to eat it.
That's the benefit you get from the food, from the wood.
Yeah.
Your benefit from the wood is that it cooks your food.
Right. Or warms your body.
So warming, I'm not sure. Warming the you'd have the hana even b'shas biurei. So I'm not sure about that. Yatsu eitzim shahana asan acha biurin. So eitzim are not included. Meaning, I can't use things. This is a geshmak drasha. The Gemara is saying you can't. What we're talking about, you can't use shmita produce for burning to heat your food, to make food out of it, because you have to use it. The hana has to come b'shas biurai, and the same way.
But then you could use it. You say
like this. If I have something that the pasuk says you have to use shmita fruit, needs to be a produce of shmita needs, when you benefit, you have to have the benefit at the time that you're consuming it. Okay.
The benefit and
therefore I would not be allowed to use shmita fruit to bake a cake. Because then let me burn up the food and now it'll turn into a coal and I'll use the heat of the coal to bake a cake. I cannot do that because that's not lachem. Lachem has to be that the hana comes at the same time as the biur. Now, the second step that we're going to say now is that anything which is the hana normally comes not at the same time is not included in kedusha shmita. Therefore, wood doesn't have kedusha shmita because you don't have benefit from it at the time of the biur. Therefore, it doesn't have kedusha shmita. That is.
Therefore, there's no problem in buying the lulav from the
right, and therefore from the market. Even the kasha though is that the diak here was the issue though is. Okay. The issue here is that the Gemara said that produce in the 7th year is a problem. The lulav in the 7th year is a problem. So our question is, why should the lulav in the 7th year be a problem of shmita? Why should it have kedusha shmita? The eitzim, it's eitzim, and eitzim don't have kedusha shmita.
But I thought you said that the lulav was a broom.
So that's what the Gemara's answer is going to be. The Gemara's going to say it in a second. So the Gemara says, the Gemara is going to say,
the eitzim, the hasaka.
1 second. Right, okay, I guess the Gemara doesn't say the answer, but the Rashi throws it in. But a lulav, the ikar hana is to clean with, and therefore shas biurai. When does it get ruined? As you use it to when you get hana from it, and therefore it is similar to achila, and therefore that would have kedusha shmita.
And therefore you can't.
And therefore you wouldn't be able to sell it if you have a 7th year. If you have a 7th year lulav, a lulav grown in the 7th year will have kedusha shmita. Now the Gemara has a problem. Va'ika eitzim demashchan. What about wood that you use to burn for light? You want to get light from it. So Rashi says eitz shemen. You have olive wood. Sheha eitz atzmei madlikim by laheyer. You use it for torches, ba'avukos, and there the hana and the biur comes at the same time. So l'chayra that should be.
That should be
hanas and a biurei comes at the same time. So why are you telling me that eitzim are not kedusha shviyas? L'chayra, it should give you an example that if you collect it for hadlakas ayra, it should be it's just like if you collect the eitzim for wood. If I collect it for animal fodder, it has kedusha shmita. So too, if I collect it for hadlakas ayra to light candles, it should also have kedusha shmita. So our answers, Amarava, stam eitzim lahasaka hin aimdim. Stam eitzim are made for burning. And they're made for a fire. Stam eitzim lahasaka hin aimdim. Stam eitzim Stam eitzim are meant for fire, for burning, and for heating, for cooking with. And stam eitzim is not made lahoyer to give light. Therefore, there is no kedusha shmita on eitzim, even if you collect them to give fire, to give light. Even because since stam eitzim are not meant to give for light, they're meant to use it for cooking. So therefore, hana'as and abiyur are not ka'achas, and therefore they don't have a din of kedusha shmita. So the Gemara says, "Be'eitzim asak tanai." This is actually machlekes tanai. The tiny one in a brisa. Ein meisun perish shvius leila mishra v'leila kvusa. You can't use perish shmita, for instance, wine. You can't use it to soak your flax in, and you can't use it to wash your clothing in. Why? Because here the hana and the biur don't come at the same time. The biur happens if the wine gets ruined when you put the flax in or when you put your clothing in, and you don't have the hana until the flax is soft or until your clothing is worn. When you wear your clothing, that's when you're benefiting from it. So it's not bankachas. Rabbi Yosi says, Moisrin, you are allowed to use these things for kedushas. Yeah, you're allowed to use yayin of Shemitah for kavisa and for mishra. So Mara wants to know, my time is the Tanakama. What's pshat that the Tanakama says you can't? So the Gemara says, Damar Kra. Now we'll see the sources for these things. The pasuk says, la'achla. You have to use it for eating. You have to use fruit of shvius for eating. V'layla mishra, v'layla l'kvoisa. Not for soaking flax and not for doing laundry. My timer. What's Rabbi Yosi? What's pshat in Rabbi Yosi? Amar Kra. He has a different pasuk. It says lachem. And he dashens lachem means l'chol tzorchechem. You can do whatever you want with it. So even if you want to use it as detergent for laundry, that's also okay. Even for soaking your flax and even for doing laundry. Okay, so we have there each darshaning a pasuk. One has the word la'achla, which is saying that you have to be able to, like something that you eat, and some of the other ones saying lachem. So now the Gemara has to figure out what is each Tana going to do with the other. So says the Gemara, V'Tanakama haksiv lachem. We're about 8-10 lines down from the bottom of Daf Mem Amud Aleph. The Tanakama haksiv lachem. The pasuk says lachem. Tanakama, you're saying la'achla, but the Torah says it's yours, so you should be able to do whatever you want with it. Where it says halachem dumya de la'achla. Yeah, it's yours. You can benefit from it, but it has to be in a way that you're similar to eating. Mishan asib yurashava, that something which the hana you get and its consumption comes at the same time. Yatsu mishra v'kvusa. So that excludes soaking flax and laundry detergent. Shahana asan acher bi'uran. You only benefit from those things after they're already ruined. So you put wine in for your detergent, you're great, your wine is ruined, but you don't benefit from the detergent until you wear your fresh laundry clothes. So it's not banka achas. So therefore, that it's exclude. You cannot use that for Paris shvius. You can't use Paris shvius for that. Rabbi Yosi, I accept la'achla. Rabbi Yosi, you're right. You have a pasuk saying lachem. You want to dash and you should use it for whatever you want, but it says la'achla. It's meant to be eaten. So he says, it means it needs to be for eating and not for medicinal purposes, not for refuah. You can't use Paris shvius for refuah. We'll see why in a moment. For eating and not for medicine. Maybe not. Why are you saying that's what it's coming to exclude? Maybe it's coming to exclude detergent. When the Torah says lachem, so it's coming to tell me you could do whatever you want. Lachem is including using it as detergent. So what do I use la'achla for? La'achla or not for medicine. So I wants to know 1 second over here. You have one pasuk that's being marba. Lachem is coming to tell you can use it for whatever you want. And I have one pasuk being mamayit. It's saying la'achla. It means it's limiting it to eating. So you want it. You need to be you're including one thing and excluding something else. So ma'ra is l'rabbi sasakvusa. What did you see here to include detergent and exclude medicine? So Gemara says, Marba aniyas akvusa sheshava b'chol adam, and here's the key word according to Rabbi Yossi. My determining factor here is whether this is something which is equally used amongst everybody. So everybody needs to do a wash. So therefore, I would include that. And I would exclude medicine because that's not the same for everybody. That's only for chaylim. So that's why he again have a mir and a read. We have something to include and something to exclude. So I'm going to be memarbe something which would affect everybody, and therefore I'll include. You can use parashvias for laundry, which is something that everybody does, as opposed to and I'm going to exclude malugma, which is medicine, because that's only something that sick people will use. Again, so the difference here is according to the Tanakama. According to Tanakama, the din of what can you use Paris Shvius for? You can use it for something where the Hana and the beer comes at the same time. If the Hana and the beer don't come at the same time, you can't use Paris Shvius. That's his determining factor. And according to Rabbi Yossi, the determining factor, I can use it for something that everybody has a use for, as opposed to something which only some people have a use for. Says the Gemara, Man Tana Lo the Tana Banan. Who's the author of the following brisa? The pasuk it says la'achla, you have to eat it, and it shouldn't be used for medicine. La'achla, you should eat the pear shemitah, v'layla zilav, and it shouldn't be used as a fragrance. A room. What's it called? They would take wine and they would sprinkle the wine around the ground to make it have a nice fragrance. A room freshener. You can't use it as a room freshener. La'achla, for eating, you can't use it as a vomit-inducing agent. Okay, so who's the Tana of this brisa? That's Kaman Rabbi Yossi. This is the going like Rabbi Yossi. The Rabbanan, because if this was like the Rabbanan, then it should have included two other things that you can't use, which is Mishra and Klusa. Being that it left those two out, must be we're only talking about things that are not Shavel L'chol Adam, and that it would be like Rabbi Yossi. Okay, so that was our discussion of what you can use Perish Shmita for. Now the Gemara is going to discuss the transference of the Kedusha. There's an idea which we did mention is that the Shavias is Tefesis as Damel. That means if I, in two parts. One is that if I were to sell the Shemitah produce, so the Kedusha would go onto the money. That's called Tefesis as Damel. It grabs onto the money. And the money also now becomes Kedusha Shemitah. Another thing that
that's like Ma'aser Sheni.
So that's chilul. Chilul means that I can be paida. I can redeem the Shemitah and put the Kedusha onto something else. That's chilul, which is another shita.
The money.
The money, yes. By Ma'aser Sheni, I'm mechalal. I take the Kedusha that's on the Ma'aser Sheni fruit, and I'm mechalal. I redeem it onto the money, and then I take the money up to Yerushalayim, and I buy stuff with it there.
And then
to
what
use
happens
Yerushalayim.
to the buyer who takes that money? Then it's
well, once that Kedusha transfers onto the stuff that you buy in Yerushalayim, so the money is chulin.
The food that you bought.
Correct.
So then it loses its Kedusha.
Yeah. So here we'll talk about Shemitah. If the for money to get the Kedusha Shvius, so how does that work? So the Gemara says as follows: Amar Rabbi Lazar, Ein Shvius mischalalas ela derech mekach. Shemitah is only going to be to transfer onto money, meaning that the money will also become kaddish. Shemitah have kedusha shvius. That's only if it went through a mecher, through a sale. So if I sold you shemitah produce, the money will be tefesas. Will have kedusha shemitah. It doesn't go off of the fruit. The fruit is going to remain shemitah, but the money now will also have kedusha shvius. That's called ein shvius mischalalas el derech mechach. I didn't gain anything, but that's how it happened. As opposed to Rabbi Yochanan, who says bein derech mekach, bein derech chilul. Whether the money will become kedusha shvius, whether it went through a sale or even if it went through pigeon. if you say how these pairs should be mechul on this money, then it will be chal on the money. Now, I don't know, according to the Rabbi Yochanan, if the kedusha leaves the fruit. I don't think it does. The point is, when you in order for them for money to get kedusha shvius, Rabbi Yochanan the Rabbi Elazar says that only happens if there was a purchase. If there was a purchase, then the kedusha will also go onto the money.
If there's a purchase, you have shemitah fruit, and I give you the money for the shemitah fruit. I'm buying it now.
Right.
With the chol and kesef.
Correct. The money has kedusha shvius now.
That's why you were worried about buying it from the Moritz?
Yes.
In the beginning?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. Right. And he says if you did give him money, so then you have to say that you mechulal and al perish basically. You're being mechal the money onto fruit. That's going the other way in the case that the Gemara mentioned before. If you sold it, if you accidentally sold if you accidentally sold, if you bought your esrog from a Amaretz, so now he has money that has shvius. So he's not going to be worried. He's not going to be concerned with that. So then you are supposed to be machal. You're supposed to take some fruit that you have and transfer the kedusha from that money onto your fruit
without paying, without anything.
Correct.
Just by saying.
Right.
Just by saying.
Right. That's going the other way.
And here
we're taking we're putting the kedusha on the kedusha shvius onto the fruit. So Rabbi Elazar says, "Ain't shvius mischalel is el derech mekach."
It has a shvius. This has already kedusha shmita.
Correct, but now by making a sale, the kedusha shvius will also now be on the money. The money now has kedusha shvius,
right?
And therefore, things you buy with that money will have kedusha shvius, as we'll see on the bottom of the page. Rabbi Yochanan says, "Bein derech mekach." This happens also through a sale. He agrees. Bein derech chilul, or even if it's not a sale, but you just say that the kedusha should be chal on the money, that will also take effect onto the money.
The money for what? To buy it?
Even if you're not buying it, you're being machal, just like you would do by Meiser Sheni.
But it's not chal. It doesn't become the chul.
Correct. I don't think the fruit becomes chulin, but the kedusha will be typhus on the money, even if it was no sale.
Why would you? I wonder why you would do that. I mean, there's no reason to it. You haven't gained anything.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm not sure why you would do that. Well, if you did, that's what would happen. Let's see the Gemara. My time with Rabbi Elazar. What's Pran Rabbi Elazar says it only goes derech bekach? It says the chsiv. The pasuk says b'shnasa yevel hazais. So when it's talking about yevel, and Rashi says yevel and shmita have the same halacha. And right after that, it says v'samachle v'chisimkru memkar. You'll make a sale. So Gemara says derech mekach v'loy derech chilul. So the transfer or the kedusha being typhus on Perish Shvius will happen through a sale. Okay, so because he's dashing the smichas of the psukim. Rabbi Yochanan, my time. What's about Rabbi Yochanan? The chsiv ki yovel hi. This is the pasuk before. It says ki yovel hi kodesh. Ma kodesh bein derech mekach bein derech chilul. Just like kodesh works, hektish will work both derech chilul and derech mekach. So too. Ma bein derech mekach bein derech chilul. Afshri is bein derech mekach bein derech. So like the Mar of Rabbi Yochanan, Hai v'chisim kru memkar my avadlei. So what does he do with the drasha? The Maisa, there's a smichas here between yovel and sales. So what do you do with that smichas of that juxtaposition? So Mar says like Rabbi Yosef bar Chanina, the Tanya, Rabbi Yosef bar Chanina, Bayu rei kamakasha av kashal rivers. Look how difficult and harsh. Even avak shvius. Avak means not the main isra shvius, but even a side isra shvius, which is The main Isser of Shvius is obviously plowing and planting your field. A side Isser of Shvius is selling the produce to make money. So the Gemara dashes, Adam Shvius. The person's going to make sales with, do business with the pair of Shvius. Right? This is the smichas, because it says Yavel and then it says making sales. Then L'Saif, what's going to end up happening is Mecheres Metatalov. He's going to have to end up selling his own property. It says in Yavel, you're going to end up you have to return it, give everything back. Everything goes back to its original owner. So you see, and then the Gemara, the Brisa there continues. It goes through a whole arichos of a guy who sells with avak rivers. He's going to selling his metal, and then he'll end up selling his karka, and then he'll end up selling his kids. He'll end up selling his daughter. That's what you get for being meicher with avak rivers. With shmita.
With parish shmita.
Correct.
And the truth about it is, it's you've done nothing wrong in a way. I mean, I don't.
No, that's an issur. The pasuk says la'achlev le'l'schayra. That's a drasha we made. You're not supposed to be matzniya. You can't hold on to a pair of shvius to do business with. That was an issur of l'schayra. Meaning, if you went and you harvested 1 or 2 esrogim or 1 or 2 fruit and you brought it back home and you want to sell it, that's okay. It'll transfer the kedusha shvita. But to do business with to make your parnaso off a pair of shvius, that's an issur la'achlev le'schayra. So the Gemara is just pointing. It's meant to eat. It's not to do business with.
It's meant to be eaten, not to do business.
You can't keep it past this man beer. You have to get rid of it. So anybody who's holding on to it to be able to sell later is doing an Isser Shvius. Not the main Isser Shvius, but it's an Isser Shvius. And the point the Gemara is the drasha of here is making that even if we're doing such a dealing with avak Shvius, you still get this a whole list of issues. Yeah, that's what he does. That's the drasha he makes between the juxtaposition of Yovel and Mecher. Rabbi Lazar. What does he do with the pasuk that says that it's kodesh as a din? It has a din of kodesh of hekdesh, and we know hekdesh you can be machal. So what does he do with that pasuk? He says, that's just to tell you that there is such a halacha that the kedusha shvius will grab onto the money that you when you sell it. Tanika was the Rabbi Lazar. Tanika was the Rabbi Yechon. Tanika was the Rabbi Lazar. Shvius tefesas as the meo. Shenemar kiyevel hikodesh. Shemitah will grab onto the money when you sell it, like the pasuk says. It's kodesh. Tia lachem. Ma kodesh tefesas dam. Just like hekdesh will be kodesh, will grab onto its money, and the kedusha will go onto the money. Va'aser, and it remains aser. Af shvius tefesas as the meo. Shemitah will also be tefes as the meo. But asura, and it will remain asur. Ima kodesh tefes as dam of v'yetz l'chulon. Or I should say it's asur to do. Kodesh tefes as dam of v'yetz l'chulon. But by kodesh, by hekdesh, when hekdesh gets sold, and then or you buy something from hekdesh, so then or by meiser sheni or something like that, the kedusha goes off and transfers to the money, and then the item becomes chulin. So maybe the same thing should happen by shmita. So Gemara says, "Ima kodesh tefes as dam of v'yetz l'chulin, af shvius tefes as dam of v'yetz l'chulin." You would think that that's what should happen. Tamalam, the pasuk tells us, "Tihiyeh kodesh tihiyeh b'havayasateh." It remains as is. Okay, so what does that mean? What does that look like? I'm going to give us an example. Lokach b'perish shvius basar. If you bought meat with perish shvius, so now. So now you have to get rid of both of them during Shemitah. Right? The Zman beer means that you have to get rid of the Shemitah by a certain time. So now the basar, the meat that you just bought with the pair of shvius, both of them now have a Zman beer of
the fruit.
I would imagine. Dagim yatsa. I'm sorry. Lokach b'basar dagim. If you went now and traded your meat for fish. So then yatsa basar. The basar is not kodesh anymore. But now that fish are. V'lakach b'dagim yayin yatsu dagim v'nichnas yayin. V'lakach b'yayin shemen yatsu shemen yayin v'nichnas shemen. Haketzad l'maisa achron nichnas b'shvius upri atzmei asa. So the last one that you actually transfer to, it remains kodesh, and the original fruit remains kodesh. But everything in between, if it transfers in between, that'll lose its kedusha. But the original fruit and the last item that's transferred will be both be usher and or at least have the kedusha of shmita. Now, miditani lokach, because we talk about buying here, alma derech mekach in derech hiloloi. So this is a raya. This is a brace that goes like Rebbe Lezer, that this process only takes place if it's derech mekach, if it's done as a sale. But if it's done as a chilul of a pigeon, that not as a transfer, not as a sale, but just as a pigeon, so then that will not take effect. That's a brace like Rebbe Lezer.
Then each one would still remain.
No, then nothing will happen. It sounds like it wouldn't. It does not become. It would not become. If you said that, I want the kedusha of this fruit should be on this money, that doesn't mean it's meaningless according to them.
Or this meat that he said he started
with the meat, yeah.
So the meat would not get the kedusha.
Correct.
So then that would be the end of the line. It wouldn't be any more.
Right. We'll see. Tanya Kabasa to Rabbi Yochanan. Then we have a brace like Rabbi Yochanan. Echad shviz ve'echad ma'aser sheni mischalelin al behema chayev va'oif. The Tana Kama says that if you both shmita and ma'aser sheni, you can be mischal. You can transfer the kedusha, or you can redeem on a animal, a chaya, a bird, bein chayim, whether they're alive or whether they're shachan already, whether they're already geshachten. That's what Meir's opinion. The Chacham say al shchutin mischalen, al chayin ein mischalen. You could do it on shchutin, you can be mischal, but not on live animals. Why not? Because we don't want the kedusha to be on. We don't want you to put it onto a live animal, and then that animal will have kids, and that'll all be have kedusha, whatever, meiser or shviz. Amarava machlokes bezacharim. The machlokes here of whether you could be machal onto live animals is only by males, because the issue would just be al tzagzera al benakevas divriyakol al shchudim mischal and mischal and gzera shem yigadol min adar. Everybody would agree that you wouldn't do this on a female. The question is only if we're geyser on all balei chayim, because of in the kevas atu zacharim atu nekevas. That is that. But what do you see from this brisa? The point we want to bring up from this brisa is that you see that the brisa here uses the lashon of chilul, that you are redeeming one onto the other, and therefore you see that this brisa is going like Rabbi Yochanan, who says that bein b'makach, bein bechilul, you'd be able to transfer or put the kedusha onto from, or not just, again, it's going to stay onto the Shemitah, but it will also go onto your money, whether you did it as a sale or if you just said that you wanted to do it. That could be the reason why you just, I don't know why you would say that it should be machal onto it. Maybe you didn't know the halacha, maybe you thought it would work, but if you did, then the kedusha remains on the parish shvius and also onto the fruit. Okay, we are.
It says on Bachus, it says mischalun al behema chayev.
By Sheni, that's true.
Oh, that's Sheni. That's all. That's
it's talking about both. You're saying a good point. It's both. It's talking about both, but it.
So how can you say it keeps it?
By Shemitah, it keeps it. The pairs don't lose their kedusha.
But even on this on chilul, what do you call it? On
even if you use a lashon of chilul, it's just a matter of lashon. Yeah. All right.
But what does it mean?